It's time for Packers Preview again. Talking about the Pack on KFAN. The Super Bowl we're gonna win again. According to your host, David Sinykin, we'll win on the road. We'll win at home. We'll even win in
U.S. Bank Stadium.
Likes fans can call if you've got the balls. The Packers Preview Show.
It's time now for year 27 of Packer Preview, presented by Hudson Ford. Now, from the KFAN studios, here's the head cheese himself, Dave Sinykin.
Good morning, Packer fans, and welcome to the first international edition of Packer Preview on the sports leader and the home of the Vikings, the Fan Radio Network, and iHeartRadio. I am beyond delighted to be broadcasting live from the, what are we calling this, the 35 Bar at the Melia White House Hotel, our headquarters, the Fan Listeners Group headquarters this week for the big Packer game today against the New York Giants at Tottenham Spur Stadium. We have recorded this show for you guys so you could listen live. Otherwise, you'd have had to have gotten up at about 4:30 this morning to listen, because obviously at this moment, as you're listening live on the Fan, we are about 90 minutes away from kickoff. Packers and Giants. Green Bay, as you know, the 32nd and final NFL team to play overseas. And believe it or not, the first time two winning teams have matched up in London. I chalk that up to the fact that the Jacksonville Jaguars play in most of the games in London, and that's why that's been the case. It has been a remarkable week in London. I want to start, first of all, by thanking our host, Michael Kenny, Define Destinations, for setting this trip up, allowing us Packer fans to be here. And I welcome all of us Packer fans for joining us for the program this morning. We have our group. We have another group of fans that have joined up with us and have come here to watch the show. We're so happy to have everybody here. Are you guys fired up for Packer football today? It almost seems surreal that we're going to see a Packer game in a few hours today. It's unbelievable. And by my side, my producer, Brett Blakemore, who has had his fill of European football. We like to call it soccer.
Correct.
Are you ready to switch to an oblong ball and watch some real football today?
I've tried to immerse in the culture here, and I'm ready to go back to our roots and watch actual American football today and be a crazy tourist that's just here for the football game. Yeah, I'm ready for that.
Like most of us. And it's been unbelievable, and I'm sure a lot of you have read about what the scene has been like in London this week. Not exaggerating here. 100 Packer fans to one Giants fan, at
100%.
least, right?
Yep.
It's unbelievable, the green and gold we have seen. You know, and being part of a travel tour, we've had a chance to see a lot of the hot spots in London, Buckingham Palace and the Tower of London and the Borough Market. Wherever we go, there is green and gold all over the place. When we were boarding our plane on Wednesday night, a Go Pack Go chant started out as we were getting on the plane. I'm like, all right, we're in the right place. We're heading to the right place. It's been a remarkable scene, and it's been a long time coming. And not just for American fans here visiting, but the Londoners that have waited for Green Bay to be here. Fans and just folks that know the history of this franchise that have said, we need this team to get here. That day has arrived.
Well, the tickets are triple the price of last week's game, triple the prices of almost any of the NFL games that were over here. It's the Packers are over here. Aaron Rodgers is probably the only time, almost certainly, the only time he'll ever play in London. It's a historical event. It's a once-in-a-lifetime for everyone that's here and all the Packers fans from Germany and all over Europe and all the Americans that came over.
I think I speak for everybody here and everybody listening. Let's have less drama in this game than the one we saw last week with the Vikings and Saints. We don't need overtime. We don't need anything close. Green Bay's an 8-point favorite for a reason today, and we'll get all into the matchup against the Giants and what might be in store. Just quickly for you, I know you were in Brighton and you saw your favorite team play soccer last night.
I did.
Just give the listeners a feel for what it's like to be in a soccer stadium with European fans and the passion you saw last night.
Well, the best part was that we got into the away end, which was my section, the Tottenham section. So I didn't have to disguise myself. I didn't have to cover up my Spurs jersey. I could just wear it loud, be loud and proud. And it's a different type of noise. It's constant. It's all the time. It's not big oohs and ahs of American football. It's just constant singing and cheering of random songs over and over again and just telling the other people how much you don't like them.
Did you sit down? Did you sit down once during the game?
No, not halftime. I sat down.
So old school Packer fans would have been all over you, right? The old timers at Lambeau,
down in front.
Exactly.
Yeah.
None of that in Brighton last night, right?
No.
So let's talk about what we have in store for this one, you guys. It's actually the 6th overseas trip for the Giants. They're kind of used to this, but new coaching staff for them, relatively new for the Packers. It's kind of new territory for both organizations. It's been a long time for the Giants, and certainly, as we said, Green Bay has never been overseas. This game features two of the NFL's all-time winningest teams. The Packers will pass the Bears today, finally, officially, for the first time ever. Green Bay and Chicago tied up with 785 wins. The Giants are number 3 with 709. They have not added to that total much in recent years, that's for sure. But they come into this one a surprising 3-1. Their new head coach, Brian Daboll, came from the Buffalo Bills, where he turned Josh Allen into a real quarterback, and the Giants are hoping he can do that for Daniel Jones, who's gotten off to a decent start. He's kind of one of the storylines of this game because he injured his ankle last week. There was a lot of questions whether he would play in this game. His backup, Tyrod Taylor, came in, got a concussion. He is not cleared for today, so Jones has no injury designation. He will start, but he is very good at running with the football. He is a dangerous weapon with the ball in his hands, uses play action, uses RPOs, uses those legs. Not sure he'll be able to do that as much with that injured ankle, so that bodes well for Green Bay. There's not a whole lot of weapons to worry about on the New York Giants offense beyond number 26, and we'll talk about Saquon Barkley and the problems he might cause for Green Bay's defense as we go today. Let's talk injuries first. The big story for Green Bay, the return of Jair Alexander, which makes my daughter Allie happy. She's here on the trip sporting her number 23 jersey, and she's glad that he's going to be in uniform. And I think we're all happy to have Jair back on the field today. He is good to go with the groin injury. Biggest injury concern for Green Bay is Adrian Amos, who suffered a concussion in the first quarter last week. If you remember, early in that game, he was all over the field. He was making tackles. He was very obvious early on. And when he left that game, it made a huge mark on Green Bay's defense. We talked about it when the season started. There's not a lot of depth on the defense. They're great 1 through 11, but an injury is certainly on the back end, a lot of question marks, and I think Green Bay felt it last week. Rudy Ford, the special teams ace, took Adrian Amos' spot. It did okay, but there was a lot of missed tackles, a lot of, as you guys remember, the Patriots ran all over Green Bay in the second half. And when Ford left special teams, all of a sudden, the return game for the Patriots got going. And he's a real strong weapon as a gunner. So it's just a real tipping point when you lose a key player like Adrian Amos. So as you guys listen to this live, you may have already heard the injury designation for Amos, that he's cleared or not. But as we do this show hours earlier, we are all crossing our fingers that the Green Bay will have their star safety on the field. Other than that, Devontae Wyatt, Tariq Carpenter, a couple of rookies that aren't being counted on a whole lot just yet, are also listed as questionable. Not sure if they will be there. Giants are really banged up. They basically have no wide receivers to play in this game. I don't know who Daniel Jones is going to try to throw the football to. If you watched the Giants last week, I think they were in prime time. Sterling Shepard tore his ACL. And an obvious, you saw it when it happened and said, oh, that's just not good. They lose him. Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay, their other two top receivers, did not make the trip. So they are down in their depth chart at wide receiver. Again, that should play into Green Bay's defense's hands. We'll talk in the next segment about the Giants' offense coming up against Green Bay's D. Also, key injury for the Giants, Leonard Williams with a knee injury. Pass rusher supreme for the Giants, questionable today. They are missing their star defensive end, Azizo Ojiari. Did I pronounce that right, guys? We good with that?
That's right.
We're going to go with it, right? All right, we're going to go with that. He is out today with a calf injury. Their secondary's banged up, too. I mean, there should be lots of opportunities for Green Bay's offense against Wink Martindale's defense. We'll talk again about what Green Bay's offense has in store today. So injury, not a huge factor where we're at, but, man, we just don't know how either team is going to react to being overseas, the strange practice schedule, every timing being thrown off, and not being used to it. Both teams flew in on Thursday. They've, I know, done it earlier. Some of these guys have tried coming out earlier, and they thought the later the better. They can get acclimated. I think we're going to feel it more next week. I think it'll be interesting to see today how the Vikings do against the Bears, because I didn't know this until this week. You know, traditionally teams, the NFL automatically gave you your bye week after you played overseas to get your bodies back. Now they're allowing teams to decide, do you want your bye week after London or do you want to wait? And both the Vikings and Packers said, let's take it later. Week 5, week 6 is too early. Week 14 for Green Bay is a bit too late for my liking, but that's what they gave Green Bay. Only 5 teams have elected to play the week after being overseas, and they've all struggled big time. All 5 of those teams have either trailed or been tied in the fourth quarter. So I think the Bears might just make things a little tricky. Now, the NFL did the Vikings a favor by scheduling the Bears at home, and they've done the Packers a favor because we get the Jets at home next week. So it's not a bye week, but it's kind of a glorified bye week. But I'll be a little concerned about how that team reacts a week later after being overseas. So I'm not as concerned about today. I'm a little more concerned about what next week looks like.
I'm concerned about if the defense, now that Jair is back, if we're willing to adapt. I've been saying that for weeks, and I don't think last week, they let a third-string quarterback just dice them up and down because they just said, we're a zone team. That's what we're doing, and we're going to play. And Bill Belichick knew it and ate it right up for a lot of that game. So I'm hoping Jair solves some of those problems, but he didn't in week 1. And I'm hoping that finally they're willing to make changes instead of just saying, you know what, this is our game plan and this is what we're doing. Because a lot of times it needs adjusting in the halftime or later.
Yeah, it's a great point. And let's talk briefly about what we saw last week, because the Packers defense has given up scoring drives every game. The first drive of the game, every game this year. Like to see that defense start a little bit quicker and not get behind right off the bat. As you said, they're down to their third-string quarterback. Put your base defense in and dare them to run, to throw. And Green Bay didn't do that. They stayed in the nickel. We saw Stevenson and Harris chewing up yardage. Now, the last 3 times the Patriots had the ball, the defense forces a 3-and-out, and obviously did their job in overtime to give Green Bay a chance the second time. But, yeah, I think Joe Barry is starting to come under some fire, certainly among fans, because we see the undeniable talent on that side of the ball. Yet they're struggling against mediocre. Let's face it.
That's being generous.
We're in a stretch right now, right, where Bears and Giants, and then the Jets, and then the Commanders. This is a time where the defense should control things, especially knowing that the offense is still trying to find its identity. I think we've seen signs of Green Bay's offense. We'll certainly talk about that. But man, Rodgers was brutal. He's not listening. Yeah. He's not behind me, is he?
Okay. I think he's still with Ted Lasso.
He might be. Yeah, he might be. He was. I've never seen a worse half of. I think statistically, it was his worst half of football. Mm-hmm. And of course, the pick 6 at the end of the half was just one of those moments like, well, this is going to be way too old a reference for you.
All right.
But it's like, wait, is David Whitehurst our quarterback all of a sudden? How did this happen? What happened to number 12 today? It was an ugly first half. We were lucky who we were playing, a Patriots team that was down to their third-string quarterback, and they don't have a lot of weapons either. But obviously, the second half, a whole different ball game. Rodgers was much sharper, and we're still seeing concerns on that side of the ball. Romeo Doubs, undeniable talent, but finishing plays that the touchdown could have just sewn things up, and none of our blood pressures would have risen because we would have had that score. There would have been no overtime. So we need things to get cleaned up. But Aaron Jones continues to show us he's the most explosive weapon on this team. He needs the ball in his hands. A day like this, we'll talk about the Giants' rush defense. It's awful. This should be an Aaron Jones day. Get the lead, then it becomes an A.J. Dillon day. They both get to feed. The offense is going to be a work in progress. Everyone's going to get more comfortable as we go. The line's getting more comfortable and getting healthier. This is the time the defense needs to rock, because we get to Halloween weekend, and we're in Buffalo against Josh Allen in prime time. We still got to go to Philly and play them in prime time. The defense is going to be tasked with much tougher challenges than the stretch they're going through now. So for me, this needs to be a day where we are cheering on the defense and saying, all right, this is what we expected to see from our defense this year.
This is the day where you think we got off lucky last week with the third-string quarterback. We're getting off lucky that he doesn't have any wide receivers to throw to.
And the Patriots were kind of in the same boat last week.
Correct, yeah. Kadarius is out. Kenny Galladay out.
Giants fans have thought Galladay's been out for about 3 seasons.
Well, that's true.
But yes, he's out for sure. Didn't make the trip today.
It's a day where you have to make Daniel Jones beat you. You have to sell out on Barkley and just make him. And hopefully they're willing to make those adjustments to make that happen. But if Daniel Jones beats you today, there's bigger problems, I think, in that Green Bay defense.
No question. Well, let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk about the Packers defense matching up with the Giants offense. It's Packers game day. We're in London. Let's have some fun, Packer fans. We're back with more Packer Preview right after these.
Tell all the people across the USA, I love my Green Bay Packers. town in Wisconsin. It's not quite as big as LA. We got something they don't have, and we're gonna see them today. Go you Packers, go, go. Go you Packers, go, go. This year, yeah, there's not a road. Go you Packers, go, go. When the pack is rocking, we'll be rolling. Go you Packers, go, go.
All right, we are back. It's Packer Preview, the first ever international edition. Broadcasting live from the Amelia White House Hotel in London. We will, when this show is over, jump on a motor coach and make our way to Tottenham Spurs Stadium. I'm told it's about an hour's drive with the traffic heading up there. We're going to be bouncing off the walls in that bus. Get us to the stadium. I can't even imagine what the scene's going to be like. I envision big-time Go Pack, Go chants just all throughout this, like just taking over the stadium. Maybe there'll be more Giants fans than we see. Maybe Giants fans are too sheepish to wear their colors in public, because they've been so bad for so long. Although, hey, they're 3-1, and I think they were a team expected to win 5 or 6 games this year. So they fired their staff, and they brought in a whole new staff, and Brian Daboll, the offensive mastermind who made Josh Allen a superstar, really, was tasked to take over a Giants team and an organization that's one of the, trademark, benchmark franchises in the NFL that's just been down in the dumps for so long. He will be a hero. It's one of those years where Daniel Jones has a chance to earn a contract, or he'll be out on the streets. So he's playing under a lot of pressure, and we'll talk about the Giants offense in the next segment. Brett Blakemore is here with me. We got a whole group of Packer fans here watching, and we've been here since Thursday. It's been an amazing 3 days. Sunday could not come soon enough, though. It's almost hard to believe it's here. Like, we're sitting here in London. No one's offered us tea, which is a bit disappointing because we're in London. But we're going to watch Packers football here in a few hours. It's still hard for me to sort of wrap my head around. Let's talk about what the Packers defense has in store today. It's, normally when you're going up against a team, you've got all right, well, let's think ahead to Buffalo, right? All right, we got to deal with Josh Allen. We got to deal with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and, and all these weapons the Bills have. The Giants have one guy, right? It's Saquon Barkley. It's a nice story, right? This is a guy who was drafted number 2, might be the last running back ever drafted 2nd overall. I think a lot of teams have learned their lesson. 2 years, lost to injury, comes back, the former Penn State star, and right now he's leading the NFL in rushing. He has been the most dynamic weapon offensively in the NFL, averaging 5.5 yards per carry, has 8 runs of 15 yards or more. That's the most in the NFL so far. Here's the scary part, guys. Turn your heads, close your ears. He's forced 16 missed tackles in 4 games. And Green Bay, that's been a concern for this defense. They are missing tackles. What's happened to Devondre Campbell? The surprise feel-good story of a year ago, the former Gopher missed 4 tackles all last season. He has missed 6 in the first 4 games. And it's obvious. I mean, you see him chasing guys down. So I don't know if it's gap issues, if whatever it might be. I hope it's not that he got paid and he's sitting pretty, because everything he said in the offseason was what you wanted to hear. But he, rookie Quay Walker, the Packers defense, has one task today when they're on the field. Make sure number 26 doesn't get behind you, Make sure he doesn't get to the edge. Mind your gaps. Take care of business. He is an explosive player. And as I said, to Green Bay's delight, he's the only guy really offensively you have to worry about for the New York Giants.
Well, and that's the thing. When we brought in Quay, that was the big talking point was, well, he's rangy and he can get those guys that maybe Campbell couldn't get out on the sidelines. And to the most part, he's done that. I don't know. I know he had a knock a couple weeks ago. I don't know if he's fully 100%. I don't see him on the list.
He ran for 146 yards last week, so I think he's okay.
Yeah, well, you would hope so.
I don't think he's too gimpy right now.
But that, on paper, that should be the guy that fills those gaps, at least with a guy like Barkley who could at least force him to an area and maybe have help in the flats.
They do a lot of misdirection, a lot of RPOs, again, to try to keep defenses off balance. And when Barkley's getting 6-7 yards on first down, that makes things so much easier for Daniel Jones, who gets to work under play action. When he uses play action, he's almost an 80% completion percentage as a quarterback. When not, it's a whole lot less than that. So it's incumbent upon the Packers defense today to get things done on first down and force Daniel Jones into 2nd and 7, 3rd and 8. Again, he's going to look at something called Daniel Bellinger at tight end.
Who?
Darius Slayton, David Stills. These are his wide receivers. Richie James. These are guys that, against Green Bay's strength, the cornerback group, should not be making plays against this defense. So, guys, when we're at the game today, focus on first down. If we can stop Barkley on first down, 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, Giants aren't going to go anywhere. They're an offensively challenged team as it is. They're feeling good. They're 3-1. But let's think about who they've played, and we'll talk about their defense in the next segment. But the quarterbacks they've faced so far, Ryan Tannehill, Baker Mayfield, Cooper Rush, and Justin Fields. So let's just say they're stepping up in class with number 12 today, right? So let's not worry about them. They're going to have to score 25 to 30 points. If this defense can hold them down to 20 points or less, I don't see a way that Green Bay loses this game. So stopping number 26, Saquon Barkley. That is task number 1 today when it comes to Green Bay defensively. Special teams. Let's talk about that for a second.
Our favorite subject to talk about.
It was our biggest concern to start the season.
Yeah.
It's been pretty solid to start, right? The punting, Pat O'Donnell was a star for Green Bay last week, really. Punted way too much for our liking, that's for sure. But let's be honest, you're playing Bill Belichick. He's the greatest defensive mastermind we've seen, certainly of our generation. I don't want to offend the old-timers here because we've had some pretty good defensive coordinators in the old days. But Belichick knew how to scheme, and then he made Rodgers struggle in that first half, right? So it was up to special teams, knowing we were going to punt a bunch. O'Donnell did his job. As I said earlier, special teams has been great so far in coverage. We haven't seen a lot of big returns. But last week, once Rudy Ford was taken off that unit, he's that speed guy that gets down there and makes those tackles. When he was off that unit, we saw the Patriots get some nice field position. Again, a game like this against an overmatched team, you can't give them any edge on special teams. It's just something we've seen it the last couple years, cost us seasons. So it's certainly top of mind for us. So in a day like this, special teams, just do your business. Don't give up any big returns. Don't shorten the field. Don't give them shorter possessions to go down the field. So, again, let's see if Adrian Amos is playing. That's going to make me feel a lot better about our chances on special teams. And seeing Mason Crosby just knock in that walk-off game winner. I know it was 31 yards, but I was a little nervous. Was anybody else nervous? I mean, you missed this. It's a tie game. It's over. We don't get any do-overs. So, a game like this, special teams has to be on point.
Isn't it sad that we're conditioned as a fan base to, as long as they just don't screw the whole game up, that's pretty much a win for us. Like, even giving them, great field position, well, at least they didn't give up the return. I mean, that's how bad they've been historically, the Packers special team. So it sucks that we're conditioned that hard, and it's that Pavlovian that's just, anytime there's a punt in the air, we're just catch it. I don't care if you return it 1 yard. Just bring it in. Please don't muff it. So thankfully, it hasn't really been our Achilles heel yet, but it certainly isn't great either.
We're just hoping for mediocrity at this point, right?
Yeah.
Give us mediocrity. We're thrilled. We're not asking for rainbows here. All right, we talked about if we force the Giants into passing situations, how that plays into Green Bay's hands. I really meant it. Jones has been sacked 14 times so far through 4 games. He's been under pressure on nearly 50% of his dropbacks. That does not make things real easy. The right side of their line is a disaster. It's a dumpster fire. Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Kenny Clark should feast today. They have one good lineman. The rest of their line is really suspect. So again, it's so big to force them into passing situations because that's when Daniel Jones crumples under pressure. Talked about he's playing for a contract. He's playing for a future in New York. They kind of surprised the world when they drafted Daniel Jones. What was it, 6th, 7th overall? Passed up a number of other quarterbacks, a number of other positions of need. Now, those guys that made those decisions aren't with the Giants anymore. So Jones doesn't have anybody in his corner. He's trying to hang on to his job, and he knows it. The fact that ankle's banged up, I really think plays into the Packers' hands. We don't know how bad he's hurt, but there was real question just 3 days ago whether he'd be able to play in this game, but has no injury designation. So he will be out there. I don't know what they have behind him because I don't think Taylor's ready to go. So this, to my mind, should be a day where Rashawn Gary kind of announces himself, if for a better phrase, to the world. Not like Green Bay hasn't been on prime time or standalone spots like this, but these international games, they just have a different viewership, different attention. This feels like a Rashawn multi-sack day, and not just sacks, but just being a problem, forcing the issue. Kenny Clark as well, I think, has a chance to be in line for a really big day today.
Yeah, that was my thing. I've been criticizing the secondary and the adjustments, but that overall, the pass rush pretty much all year long, when we've needed a big sack, even in the Vikings game every now and then. We got to Kirk Cousins before. Justin Jefferson, we won't talk about that. But overall, in the entire season, the pass rush and Rashawn has been, Rashawn's taken leaps and bounds, in my opinion, this year compared to last. And maybe that is because the Z presence isn't over him, that's his spot and that's what he wants back. And Preston's been good too. That's the one complaint on defense I don't have a single thing about. I don't have anything bad to say about the pass rush right now. I think they've done their job pretty much the entire season.
Yeah, and on the back end, I know we're all glad Jair Alexander's back. We'd rather have him than not have him. But looking at what he's got to deal with today, I almost wouldn't mind him sitting out another week. No offense, but I think almost anybody in this audience here could cover the wide receivers for the Giants today. This is not a huge task. We're not going up against anybody of any accomplishment. Now, I'm glad he's back, get his legs back, but that groin's been pesky. And again, I'm looking ahead. Once we get through this I hate to say soft part of our schedule because that's dangerous. I thought last week was the beginning of the soft part of our schedule, and it certainly was nothing but that. Once we get past this, even the Lions game in a few weeks in Detroit, that'll be our third straight road game. That's another interesting part of this game. This is a home game for the Pack. It's the second of 3 straight home games. So this is sort of that easy part of the schedule, right? Patriots and Giants and Jets. Oh, my. And then we head on the road for 3 straight, and okay, Washington shouldn't scare you too much from their offense. But then, at Buffalo on a Sunday night, and then at Detroit. And we've all seen the Lions, man. They're scoring 35 points a game, and even without their 2 best players last week, they put up a lot of points. So Jair, the secondary, once we get toward the end of October to November, that's when we're going to lean on that unit against good quarterbacks, good receivers units. This group today should overwhelm that passing game. If Green Bay doesn't intercept a couple balls today, I will be shocked. This feels like Jair, take it to the house, daughter Allie screaming with her jersey on. That's what today feels like to me. And if I don't see it, I think if any of us see the defense struggle, we've got major concerns. That the competition's going to ramp up. And if you can't handle a Giants team with one weapon, good luck when things get really serious.
Yeah, great. Well, in the glass half full spin on the Jair coming back today is I think I'd rather have him come back where you're not really, the workload's not going to be that much. You can kind of get your feet under you, like you were mentioning, instead of having to come back and guard Devontae or come back and one-on-one with JJ or any of the elite wide receivers or even a Mike Evans if we were playing against, but he got suspended against us. Lucky us. So I think that's a good thing for him. But yeah, if they don't feast, if they're not getting to Daniel Jones, or God forbid, if Daniel Jones beats us with no weapons, I would be fully hitting the defensive panic button after that.
I'm just going to say it. I don't see a scenario where we don't come out with a W today against this team. I know they're 3-1 and they're feeling good, but right now, if they get to 7 wins this season, I'll be shocked. I think they've kind of peaked. As long as you control Barkley, I don't see any issues today. All right, let's come back and talk about when the Packers have the ball against the Giants defense. And we'll welcome a guest who happened to be at the Ice Bowl a few years ago, who's listening into the program here today. All that and much more coming up on Packer Preview. Final segment coming up after these. We'll be right back.
Well, I'm proud to be a Packer fan. The best football fans in all the land are Packer fans. And it's a Packer fan I am. Yo! Go! Hush up!
All right, we are back on Packer Preview. It's game day. We are in London and getting set for Packers football today. Can't even believe we're going to be at the game today at Tottenham Spurs Stadium. As you're listening right now, we are, less than an hour from kickoff for you guys listening live on the Fan. We are pre-recording this earlier. I think where you guys are, it's probably about 5 in the morning at this point. So we're getting this done. We're going to head off to the stadium to watch Giants and Packers, 2 3-1 operations. Green Bay looking to advance to 4-1 and likely trying to keep pace with the Vikings, who, while home with the Bears today and expected to win, I think will struggle just a bit. I think this one's going to be, I think the Vikes will pull it out, but I think it'll be decided very late in the game. We talked about the post-London blahs that a lot of teams have, those that choose to play and not take the bye. So let's talk about the Packers offense against the Giants defense, which I mentioned is led by the former Ravens defensive coordinator. He likes to go by Wink Martindale, and a defensive genius, did a great job with the Ravens. They decided to move on from him. He moves on to the Giants, and he's got this defense, especially the pass rush, playing very, very well so far. They lead the NFL in blitz rate. They love to get after the quarterback. Now, last year, you'll remember, Packers played the Ravens when Martindale was the defensive coordinator. That was the game Lamar Jackson did not play. Their cornerbacks were all banged up. We thought we'd go into Baltimore and take care of business, but as usual, it was a struggle, and we escaped 31-30. And Martindale decided not to do a whole lot of blitzing against Rodgers, as a lot of teams do. They know that Aaron can dice up the blitz and just instantly in his mind figure out what to do with the ball. So while they're blitzing a ton, I don't think we'll see a whole lot of blitzing out of the Giants today, but they are getting a lot of production out of Dexter Lawrence, 2 sacks, 15 pressures. He's the third-ranked defensive lineman when it comes to pressuring the quarterback. He moves around a lot on the line. He'll likely stay away from John Runyon, who has allowed 0 pressures so far this season. There was talk about maybe benching Runyon for Zach Tom, the rookie. Runyon's been great. And Josh Myers and Royce Newman will probably be that soft part of the line that Dexter Lawrence is going to try to make some hay against. So we'll watch out for him for sure. I mentioned Leonard Williams, questionable with a knee injury. We'll see if he is good to go. They drafted a rookie in the first round, Kayvon Thibodeau. He's been slow to start, but he's one of those guys that once he figures it out is immensely talented physically. So the strength of the Giants defense is up front. Where they struggle is stopping the run, which plays right into our hands. Their run defense ranks 28th in the NFL. They're giving up 141 yards a game. They gave up about 150 to Khalil Herbert and the Bears last week, and that was a team that doesn't throw the football. There was no worry about Justin Fields beating. They just knew they had to stop the run, and they could not do it. And that's why I said earlier, this is an Aaron Jones day early and an A.J. Dillon day late. At least that's the way I'm dreaming it up in my mind. Jones should have no problem hitting the edges. That's where they really struggle. That's where he excels. So the running game should be what Green Bay starts with, and that allows Aaron Rodgers to open things up in the passing game. We talked this week about got to get Randall Cobb more involved. He's earned his chances. I don't know where Cobb necessarily fits, right? I mean, they're playing a lot of Jones and Dillon on the field together. That's just 2 receivers then. That's Lazard and Dobbs typically. So we'll see if Cobb gets more opportunities. We'll see if Rodgers still has confidence in Dobbs after a couple of shaky moments last week. But I am bullish about this offense. I think 6, 7, 8 weeks from now, it's going to be humming the way we hope it to hum. But I think today, this defense matches up really well for what Green Bay wants to do.
Well, it's still like Rodgers says, winning the way that we were winning was not. It's not sustainable. There's the last seconds and the struggling offenses, and also. In last week, sometimes against the Patriots, it felt like an old Paul Chryst Wisconsin team where you'd run it once, get stuffed, run it twice, get stuffed, and now you're 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, and you're trying to. Everyone in the building knows you're throwing it. It just felt stale at times last week because they wanted to get them more involved. They wanted to get AJ and Dillon more involved. I don't know. I want them to be a little less predictable and not just force feed the ball, but also be versatile as well. Their run defense isn't very good as well.
Well, what I want to see is Green Bay hang on to the football. That's been so unusual about this team. Green Bay doesn't turn the ball over, typically. 7 turnovers in 4 games so far this year. They have yet to win the turnover battle in a game. Usually when you don't win the turnover battle, you don't win the game. So the fact that that's been the case, yet Green Bay is 3-1, I think bodes well because these things are going to even out. And if Green Bay doesn't win the turnover battle today, I'll be very surprised. Again, I expect Daniel Jones to give Green Bay's defense opportunities to take that ball away. Where the Giants' defense has been really strong this year is red zone and 3rd downs. They're among the leaders in both categories. 2nd in red zone defense, 3rd in 3rd down defense, which sounds impressive. But I'll remind you, the 4 quarterbacks they've faced: Ryan Tannehill, Baker Mayfield, Justin Fields, Cooper Rush. They haven't faced explosive quarterback play, quarterbacks that live on third downs, move the chains, quarterbacks that excel in the red zone. Obviously something Green Bay has in spades for sure. So Giants defense is in for a giant test, pardon the pun, and they're missing 2 or 3 of their key secondary players as well. It matches up well. The biggest question mark is just how does this team deal with being in London, the schedule being thrown? Is that going to throw I know both teams have to deal with it, but that to me is the only way Green Bay's offense doesn't put 25, 30 points on the board today.
Well, for whatever it's worth, it's also really a road game for them because not only are they the quote-unquote home team, the Packers, it's all decked out, but, I mean, we didn't, like you said, maybe 100-1 on the streets of Packers fans, and maybe we were looking for blue and red where we should have been looking for paper bags over the heads, right. that color of brown. And also there's going to be all the sound. You're going to hear Ton Rundgren after a touchdown. You're going to hear probably the Go Pack Go chants. Actually, the little drum fill that they do for that. I mean, it's legitimately going to be a home game for the Packers. For whatever they're professionals, but for whatever that's worth, that's another factor.
Yeah, and I talked to a lot of people. I'm sure you guys have too. Like, we all thought, all right, maybe it'd be 60-40 Packer fans in the stadium. That kind of felt right.
I don't know.
80-20? I think what we're not thinking about is we know all the folks that have come overseas to come to this game from the States, but there are thousands of fans from this country that are Packer fans. There are guys that do podcasts, Packer podcasts in London. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've been waiting for the Packers to come here. So the amount of Londoners, Brits that have been waiting for Green Bay, that have tickets to this game, we can't even think about how that's going to play in as well. We think of, all of us are coming over, we're going to fill the stadium. Well, the locals are going to fill the stadium too. It wouldn't shock me if it's 4-1, 5-1. I'll be really surprised if it's not. And that's just going to make it all the more fun for us. We're all going to be a part of kind of a home game here at Tottenham Spur Stadium. Mentioned our tour group. Again, want to thank Michael Kenny, Define Destinations, setting up this amazing trip of a lifetime for all of us. Have we had fun this week, you guys? Yeah. This has been an absolutely amazing week, and he does a great job setting up international tours all over the world, whether it's Packer fans or anyone that wants to see parts of this world. I recommend you checking out Define Destinations. He does an A+ job. We've stumbled upon Packer fans from all over, as well as from Minnesota. We had a pub crawl last night. Stumbled upon a bunch of fans that joined us for the pub crawl. A number of them came to the hotel this morning to join us. And I want to welcome one of those gentlemen, John Hillen, a Green Bay native by way of Minnetonka, now by way of Scottsdale, Arizona. And John, I welcome you, and I wanted to bring you on because I think you're the only person in this bar right now that can say, I was at the Ice Bowl, which basically makes you very old.
Yes.
I was alive. I was on the planet, but I was about 5 and living in Milwaukee, and my folks had no interest in taking me. First of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And I know your family's here. Your brother Paul's here. Sons, nephews, buddies. It's great to have you here. I just wanted you to share with us, by the way, to visualize. He's got the old school Paul Horning jersey on. You know it's old school because it doesn't say Horning on the back. You know, I have a Nitschke jersey. There's no Nitschke on the back. Maybe the embroiderist didn't know how to spell Nitschke. I don't know, but it doesn't have his name. So I appreciate the old school attire today. Give us some memories. How old were you when you went to? I was going to age you a little bit. But
I was about a month shy of 10 years old.
So you old enough to probably still remember what it was like.
I was sitting on the floor in our family room watching cartoons, and my dad came down and he said some friends of his aren't going to the game because it was too cold. It was, I think, 13 below, and the wind chill was, 100 below. And I said, sure, I'll go. And my uncle, David, was home from Vietnam on leave. He was a dentist with the Marines. And he and I went, sat in their seats. My parents went also. And I wasn't prepared. I had these black galoshes on with the flip tab buckles and wool pants, long underwear, and whatever coats I could put on. I had plastic bags in my boots, thinking that was going to make me warmer, and we headed out after that.
So what do you remember from the game? Because obviously we all know how it went down. We know it was freezing. We know Packers were up against it, had to score at the end of the game. Take us through. You told me the story about the closing moments and the aftermath. Share it with the audience.
Yeah, well, during the game, you're constantly stomping your feet, trying to keep blood going to your game or to your feet. Had cardboard on the floor, on the ground to do that. And you're always moving around. And then at halftime, I went out to fire up the car. In those days, you could leave the stadium and come back. Fired up the car, got warm, came back about midway through the third quarter. And, the whole game, we were pretty much in control of that game until the end of the first half. And then into the third quarter, the Cowboys took the lead in the game. And we were sitting on the north end, about 8 rows up on about the 20-yard line. So when the final drive started, which was a very famous drive, we didn't expect much, quite frankly, because the Packers hadn't done much that half.
Right.
We thought maybe Lombardi's quest for 3 championships in a row was going to fall short. And then one by one, they just made their way down the field. And when Starr jumped in, nobody knew on our side of the field. We weren't sure what had happened until they all came back with their hands up, and everybody was screaming and going nuts. And then there was
saying, "We get to leave! We get to leave!
We get to leave!" Right? And so then I think we kicked off after that, and there were a few seconds left, and the game was over, and everybody started running down to the field. And I didn't know what to do. Lambeau Field is this sacred ground. I thought, you're not allowed to go down there. So my uncle said, "Well, do you want to go down?" I said, "Sure." So he set me down into the field, kind of helped me down on there because I was 10 years old, and I was running around acting like an idiot, like everybody else. And then I grabbed on one of the goalposts. The goalpost had come down, and I was on the very end of it. And I'm holding on for dear life, wondering why, why are people doing this? All of a sudden, I heard this kink, and the goalpost slipped out from under my arms, and it was gone up the tunnel. In those days, they had a tunnel on each end of the end zone, and about 3 or 4 guys disappeared up the tunnel with the goalpost. And it's
a nice memento from the game, Well, grab the program? No, I'm going to grab the goalpost and take it home.
Green Bay was and still is kind of an industrial town. They had that thing cut up that night into 1-foot sections with their names on it, and they're passing out to their buddies.
Wow.
And if you can find a piece of it now, I may have hung on.
That might have been your piece. Your fingerprints might have survived 55 years later.
Yeah, and I remember going home, and my feet were a solid block of ice, both of them. Took a while. It's kind of like I played hockey growing up, and in Minnesota, everybody plays hockey. It's like a cold day at the rink. You come home and you can't feel your feet for about an hour. That's what it was like.
I'm sure. Well, so glad you're here. 55 or so years later, you're still going to Packer games.
Yep.
Before I let you go, what do you expect from the squad today? What do you think we're going to see?
Well, I'd like a more consistent effort on offense. I'd like to see Rodgers finally become a leader on this team and take control. And when the team is down or when a wide receiver drops a pass, I'd like to see him buck it up and continue to develop these younger wide receivers and other players. And I'd like a better effort from our from our run defense as well.
Absolutely. That's the key today.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, we've been quite porous there.
Yeah, much more porous than I expected,
Yeah.
really. I had higher hopes. John Hillen, thank you so much for giving us some memories and giving it we're all very envious that you got to enjoy the Ice Bowl. All right, we're wrapping it up. Brett Blakemore, give us your thoughts on what you expect to see at Tottenham Spurs Stadium today.
Yeah, hopefully defense doesn't, or the special teams don't blow it for everybody. They've done a good job of doing that so far this season. I want more consistent offense and hopefully just make Daniel Jones beat you, and he won't. As long as you just stop Saquon, that's the only job number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is just stop Saquon, make Daniel Jones beat you. It should be, I've got 28-14 Pack.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Just get a lead, right? If you can take the lead, now they can't just run the football. They're going to scramble to catch up. If Green Bay's playing from the lead, the Giants can't do what they want to do, and that's control the ball, keep Rodgers off the field, give Barkley 30 touches. I don't know if Green Bay's defense is up to it. I want to believe they are. I want to believe that what they did last week, letting Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris chew up yards, you're going from like some horse from a barn down the field to Secretariat today. This is a much stiffer challenge. I do think Green Bay is up to the challenge. You can read my preview at zonecoverage.com. Click on the Packer icon. That's the head cheese page. My preview is up there. I've got it Pack 26, Giants 13. I know 26 is a weird number. I see a lot of field goals. I see the Giants D, doing enough to maybe stop some drives and Crosby kicking a few, but feels like a 10 to 13 point Packer victory. We are going to celebrate as if we were Spurs fans. Is that what they are? The Spurs, right?
Yeah.
We're going to celebrate like we're Spurs fans. I don't know if we'll be on our feet the entire game, but we might be. We're going to have some fun, Packer fans, today. All right. Hey, enjoy the game, Packer fans. It's going to be a blast. Packers 26, Giants 13. Enjoy the game, everybody. And as always, go Pack.
Go Pack, go!